This episode of Thinking Tackle is in association with Daiwa Infinity Rods.
Welcome to Thinking Tackle, and as if by magic we've appeared at Sky Lake in France, just east of Paris. We've only just got to the lake and someone's had a 50-pounder. Can't believe it. What a way to open a show. We've just been down at Maison de Lac Bleu filming another DVD. It's all gone right. We've got a few days left, so we're going to fish the lake for a week, and what a way to start. Apparently, if I live the next 100 years, I'm not going to see a nicer looking carp, so I'm going to get in there and have a look. Hello, mate.
Right, Tommy.
Oh my God. Oh my God, look at that. That is a take your breath away carp.
What about that for a rod?
Right, you've been here 8 hours. What are you going to catch in the next 8 hours, son? Right, let's hoist him up. Let's have a look at him.
Just roll him onto your knees. Alright. That's it. Right, hold him down.
This is why anglers all over Europe come to France. And this is why Sky Lake is one of the best places to come. Look at that. Right. Get my watch off just in case I have to catch him.
Is that a big fish out, kid, or what then? Oh, kid. Look at that girth of it.
Yeah.
Ready when you are, fella. Are we going to hoist her up? Oh.
She's angry. Oh, I've touched a 50-pounder. Look at that. Oh my God. Good skills as they say, and we've got a week on here.
Look.
Oh my God. What am I seeing you later on, my love? That's not you, I'm talking about the fish. Wow, we've got a week on here. I'm going to stay static. Ali and Adam are going to move around. I think Adam's going to be up every tree in the place about 500 times tracking these beasts. Man. And hopefully we're going to get amongst them. Whether we do or whether we don't, we're going to show you all the tactics that we're using. I haven't got the luxury of time on this session. I'm only going to fish the lake once this year, and I need to find out about the swim as quick as humanly possible. We've done a night. Ali's had a small fish from a rod just chucked down the edge. I haven't had anything as yet, so I'm going to go out in the boat now and try and map the swim out as quickly as possible. There's a few tools I use to go with that. First of all, this prodding stick. They just screw together. There's a little metal bit on the end there, basically, and what I'm going to be doing is just jabbing that into the bottom to see where the soft bottom and the hard bottom is. And if it's soft everywhere and I find a bit of hard, that's a great place for a bait, and vice versa. If it's hard everywhere and I find a little bit of soft, having it on the edge of that is a great place to have a bait. And one other little tool, if the water's clear enough, it's extremely clear here at Sky Lake. If it's clear enough, then this viewing bucket will come in handy. It's basically a 25 litre bucket with a perspex bottom to it. So over the side of the boat, I'll be looking through like that, through the viewing bucket, and I might even be able to see the bottom. And if I can find any lovely clear patches amongst some weed, again, that's a great place to put a bait. So before I go out in the boat, I've got my Polaroids on to start off with, got my life jacket done up. You remember when we went to the Orient, it's so important to have them done up. It's been warm today, it's 20 degrees in the day, but that water is still freezing because it's only just into April. If I went over the side and didn't have this on, there's no way I'd make it back to the edge. So I'm going to get out in the boat now, have a look around, switch on the fish finder on the way out there and hopefully find some spots. Nothing much really to go on at the moment. It's pretty uniform out in front of me. It's much shallower here than it is where I started off in Tim's swim. It goes down to over 20 feet in front of him, and I've got 14 and 15 feet here. I'm just having a scull around my two spots that I found with a marker float yesterday. My depths are pretty bang on. I thought it was about 14, 15 foot, and that's what I'm getting. As I'm going towards my other float, it's getting slightly deeper, but it's pretty flat. What I'm looking for is any strange ups and downs. If I can find a little plateau or a little hump, that'd be a great place to put my baits around. Not necessarily on top of it, but around it. So a little while out in the boat like this, it's the same as using a marker float for about 5 hours, so it's well worth it. I might not even use the prodding stick, to be fair. Getting a little bit deeper now. 16 foot. It's just dropping by a couple of foot between those markers. Right, we've got a little hump here. Oh, got some rocky ground here, some broken ground. This might seem like a lot of commotion in the swim at the moment, and it is. If I was only doing one night, I definitely wouldn't be doing this, but I've got 6 nights ahead of me, and this prodding stick may be frightening to the fish now, but if I find some superb spots, and in a couple of days' time I catch a 60-pounder off it, then it's worth it. This extra bit of effort at this point in the session can make all the difference. So if you've got it, use it. Look like a trapeze artist now.
When we arrived at Sky Lake night before last and you saw that lovely 50-pounder, the fish started showing in the bay just behind me. So yesterday I moved in here, just fished 2 rods nice and close with a tiny amount of bait, and a short while ago I caught this stunning fish, 28 pounds, 28.2. Really, really pleased with it. During the night, loads of liners, really big fish crashing in the spot, and this trickled off about half an hour ago. Really, really nice looking fish. My first one from Sky. Really pleased with him. Hard to believe that they're more than twice this size in here. Caught it from a small bar just behind the bush, and I'll talk you through the spot and show you how I caught him in a little while.
Right, well, I'm over in Adam's swim, which as far as I'm concerned isn't actually a swim. It's his speciality to be fishing where nobody's ever fished before. Mate, why are you here?
I don't really know, mate. It's quite uncomfortable, but it's an area on the first night when we arrived, set up in the middle of the lake, just fished 2 singles out, and while we were looking down this way into this bay, there were fish showing all night.
In here?
In here.
Right.
So as soon as it got light the next morning, I packed all my gear and moved round, and I mean, it's not much, just a bit of rough ground, but it put me right in the end of the bay where these fish are showing, and I think they're drifting in and out, and rather than fish the entrance and worry about lines, I thought if I went right in the very end of the bay with my lines coming out, they're going to get to the bait before they encounter any line.
Good skills, mate, I like it.
So I had a flick around with marker float and tried my hardest to find something. Didn't really think I would, because it's the abyss out in front of all of us, isn't it? It's quite deep. And lo and behold, I found a bar
right.
Running off this bank behind this bush, and as you can see, it's very difficult. You've got to get in the water to fish it. But
yeah, I know you've got to get in the water because they're my waders.
Yeah, cheers to those, and they do leak, by the way. Didn't tell me that.
So is it going out from that? I
it
can
runs
see like
out.
a light bit there.
That's
Is
right.
Is that it?
Basically, this piece of ground's like a promoter, and it goes out and it drops down, and then it runs out at that angle for about 15 yards. And
right.
then you've got 11s through to about 15s, and then it drops down to 19s. But I said to the owner of the lake about the feature, and he didn't even know it was here. So it's probably one of those spots that just, because it's awkward, you can't cast to it from anywhere, just doesn't get fished.
Nice.
So I really fancy it. So shall I put the float in?
Mate, get them out there. I'll just spectate while you're doing it,
Right,
in awe.
See how deep that was, Dan. A long time till that touched bottom. It's just on the other side of the bar, and you'll watch as I pull it back. Look, just starting to hit the stones. That's the far side. We'll probably have about 15 there. $15 exactly.
Right.
Right. And what you do is we'll pull it back down to the lead, and then if we watch the tip, it's quite choddy the other side, and then start look at that clean stones.
Yeah.
And pull up onto the top of it.
God, that is rough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really fine on top though. That's about the top, I think. We should get about 11 if it's. Well, I've got 10 there, so with the link. So what I'm going to do is fish just behind it.
Right.
And that's the spot.
Mate, that is a trap. That is
Lovely,
good
isn't it?
angling. I would never even consider fishing this swim. And that's something you guys can all put into your own fishing. You know, going fishing with somebody new, you see a different style of angling, and I can add this to my armoury. I wouldn't have chosen this area at all. I would have fished it from another swim and probably had lines going right through the middle of where the fish are. And Adam's being as stealthy as he can, you know, he's just flicking that float out. He's got the lines so that they're this side of the fish. As the fish come into this bay, they're going to hit his rigs first rather than hitting his lines first, which is what I'd be doing if I was casting from the adjacent bank. So I'll let you crack on, mate. Hopefully you'll bag one.
Nice one, cheers.
Good skills.
I'm just going to put a rig onto the spot. I've got some foam around the hook, partly to protect the point as it drops onto the hard gravel, and partly so I can make sure the bait's exactly where I want it next to the float. Sometimes putting a bait into deep water can be a bit hit and miss, but if the foam comes up in the right place, and I know I'm on target. As you can see, the foam's come up bang on target there, just where I want it. I'm going to bait it with one spot of bait, nice and tight. In a minute I'll get round the bush and bait that. Okay, the back loop's just touched bottom down the shelf there. I'm going to put the rod down on the rest and give it lots and lots of slack line so that the fluorocarbon can settle as low as possible in the water. I won't clip on an indicator for probably half an hour. I'll just keep pulling the line off and getting it nice and low. Apparently this bay did one fish for the entire year last year, so I don't know whether the tactics are going to pay off, but we'll put the kettle on and see what happens. Welcome back to Thinking Tackle. As you can see, it's been a special night. 43.4, my first French 40, a PB. My second fish from Skye, absolutely made up with this. There was another bite during the night. Tim, the owner, had a 32, another stunning fish. And caught this from a new spot that I found just across the bay, tiny amount of bait, and really pleased with this. Well, this lake's really suited my style of angling. It's a bit different to the typical French fishing, more like your English venue, and I'm loving it. I'll sit down with Dan a little bit later and we'll talk about what I've been doing.
Well, we're back in Mr. Penning's swim, and I've managed to get a cup of coffee out of him, which for me is easier than getting a bite on this place. If you look at his top there, He's not been wrestling giant French snails. It was a giant French carp in his arms. 43, what was it?
43.4, mate. Yeah.
43.4. So
first French 40.
yeah, top result, mate.
Yeah.
Top result. And I can see peering through the cameraman's legs there. There was an extra rod in the swim. And
Well, it's only my third rod. You know, it's not really a snide. It looks a bit snidey where it's placed, I suppose. But yeah, it's just a little poke hole through there. That's where I caught him, just in across the bay. I mean, it's only what 20 yards across Little Bay, isn't it? And yeah, I found a little spot because the spot that I've been so excited about only did action on the first night, and then sort of died a death, and the line has stopped and everything. And so I found this spot with a marker float, and it's sort of 8-foot little sandy spot just off a snag. And again, interestingly, you can't actually cast to it from anywhere, any of the swims. So you have to wade out and cast back on yourself to actually get a bait on it. So I think it's one of those natural spots they feed safely in.
yeah, because that swim over there, you can't cast around the corner. There's no way of getting to that spot other than from out in the water there, which I doubt anyone has ever done.
Well, you probably don't do that. And also, I mean, even if you were in that swim, it's because it's down the inside of your own margin by 5 yards. It's not even the sort of place that someone with remote control boat drop one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, so I put one there, and just once I got it in position, I waited for the foam to come up, and it was one of those casts, you know, first one, and then I sort of got in through the bushes at the back with half a spod, and I just lowered it on top of the foam.
Very stealthy, very crafty, as
Thank you.
they're saying at the moment.
One of the mags.
So talk to us about the rig that you had it on.
Well, this is basically a safe zone leader. I took a tip out of your book and actually did the putty about 4 foot up the line.
Right.
Got it nice and warm, and then solidified it in the water in the cold lake, and that holds the flying back lead further back, as you said, which means it flies back even further, doesn't it?
Yes.
So I had that above the safe zone leader, and then the leader, square pair in line, set up shocker style, a very short hybrid hook link, single tiger, a size 8 wide gate. Right,
now that's not just a normal tiger. I've got to show people this. That's Adam's private stash of tigers, and if you look in there, they're covered in what?
It's pineapple slime, proactive particle syrup by Mainline.
Right, and how long have you had them in that?
They've been in there for just over a year now.
Just over a year. Now that started off full, didn't it?
No, it didn't. About half full.
Right,
actually.
and it's taken him that long to use that amount of tigers, and that's the key with tigers. Don't put too many in. You can completely ruin it, can't you?
Definitely.
By putting pounds and pounds of tigers in. I mean, how many tigers were around that rod in that spod bit? Half a spod.
Well, probably 12 chopped ones,
Right.
and the one on the hair. I mean, it was hardly anything.
Right.
The hook bait is the pineapple ones, and the one in the mix. I've just got a few and cut them up with my scissors and put them in. So hardly anything really.
Less is more then with tigers.
I think
definitely.
so, yeah.
Less
and at the
is more.
moment with the baiting, I think generally on the lake it seems to be less is more, doesn't it? So
yeah,
for
I'm
me,
putting
anyway.
more in and catching less.
Well, it'll come good in the end.
Right, and you see we've got your massive bit of putty on the hook link again. You put a lot of importance on that, obviously.
Yeah, I do. I mean, as you saw in show 3 on the longer mono links that I was using, I use it on all of my bottom bait presentations. And again, I don't know why it works, but it doesn't do any harm at all. And this fish, I mean, you could see it was one of the old warriors. He'd probably seen it all, and he was very well nailed, middle of the bottom lip.
Excellent.
And you know, I'm using the silicone to push the hair right round. Fairly long hair, you know, sort of 10 mil separation. And what I actually did with that capture is I wrapped the tiger in some Activate paste.
Right.
Just enough to give it a sort of 1 or 2 mil skin.
Yep.
And I tested it in the margins, and it takes about 4 hours to break down.
Right.
Fish tend to come into this bay sort of 1, 2 in the morning onwards, so I'm putting my rods out 6 in the evening. So by that time I've got a nice little tiger with a pile of Activate powder dissolved around it, which I think helps a little bit.
Very nice, like your style, mate, like your style. And no bag on this one, that's for the other rod,
That's right, yeah, that was just with the spod mix, but the other rod I've been, again, I mean, using tigers extremely sparingly. This is long chuck funnel web, just 7 tigers, always use 7, it's one of my lucky numbers.
Yeah.
And just 7 tigers, I take them out of the pineapple particle syrup and dry them off.
Yep.
And just put them in like that and just hook it on.
Yeah, which is a great little tip if you're using funnel where people think you can only put pellets in it, but any particle or tool that you use, as long as you dry off the surface and tie the bag after you've dried the surface, it's not going to eat through it, is it?
Exactly.
And
yeah.
you can get a little pile of what you're feeding just around the hook bait. So that's some fantastic little tips for stealthy fishing. It's not my style, it's suiting Adam's style perfectly, and he's getting a few bites. And I know that Mr. Hamidi has crept away from his swim and he's been on that River Marne over there trying to catch barbel. The self-confessed all-round angler is getting amongst them, so let's have a look at it.
Right, we're on the banks of the River Marne, directly behind Sky Lakes. It's very rare to come on holiday somewhere or fish any lake such as Sky Lakes and find one of the finest rivers behind the lake. So what I'm going to do, I've been told there's loads of barbel in here, lots of chub, even giant catfish, and if I'm really, really lucky, I might catch one of the many famous carp that the River Marne holds. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to get a little gripper lead set up out there, bit of paste over the top of it, and also right on the hook I've got a halibut pellet, so I'm just going to lower that down and hopefully tame one of these big barbel. Right, I'm just going to mould some halibut pellets and scalded response pellet around this gripper lead, and I'm going to lower it just off the ledge. Because the current's so strong on this particular river, it undercuts, so you'll find the fish right under the bank, and I reckon if I'm going to get a bite, it's going to be no more than a couple of feet from the bank. So here we go. It's a nice big oily scent. Lovely and deep, and that swung right into the bank. What I'm going to do now is lower the rod and wait for hopefully a big barbel to wrench the tip round. Already had a little pluck on the rod tip there. I don't know if it, oh, that's fish hitting the gripper lead. It's always good when it's like that to take your hands off, and they call it sitting on your hands, but my hands are off. I can't sit on my hands, it might take too long to strike, but it'll stop me hitting any early bites. But there's fish hitting that gripper lead, and it's the pellets that are around it, they're just knocking it. Just having a little feed off that. I'm hoping that one of them's going to suck that pellet right up. I don't know if it's chub or I don't know if it's barbel. You just can't tell when it's like this. I will want to hook one though. Oh, come on. Oh, we're in. Look at that. Come on. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Here she goes. That didn't take long, did it? Blimey. And that's one angry fish on the end. So hard in this current to tell what they are, whether they're chub or barbel. But I've got to get down that bank because it's going to try to get me under one of them famous River Marne trees. Blimey. Oh. Look at that. How exciting is that? That is power, and they've got all that current and flow to use as well. It's unbelievable how much muscle a barbel has, but I could have egg on my face here and it could turn out to be a chub. But the way it's pulling, that is no chub. Let's see if it comes up. Oof. Doesn't want to come in. I'm going to get the net at the ready so that I'm not hanging around. It's a big, big, deep plateau just straight down here, so they've got loads and loads of depth to hug. Oh, nearly went. Oh, it's only a little one, whatever it is. Look at that, non-stop. They've got so much power, these river fish. That's what makes them so unique. They're brilliant sport. Look at that. A beautiful barbel. Tiny. Not very big by this river standards, but lovely nonetheless. Look at that. I've been feeding this spot for a little while, just kept trickling the bait in, knowing that when the cameras are rolling we've got a good chance of a bite nice and quickly. I won't make out that I'm some expert barbel angler, and I just picked this spot by chance. It's literally right behind the lodge at Sky Lakes. Couldn't be any more convenient and any more fun. Come on girl, get your head up. Here she comes. Come on. Oh no. Just saw the net. Didn't want to know. Come on you. Come to Ali. There we go. Lovely. Job done. Nicely hooked in the scissors. Oh, that size 12 wide gape was not coming out in a hurry. So lay that rig down. These are such tight, cramped swims. It's quite entertaining actually. It's very Mr. Crabtree. I'm going to turn around. What a beautiful fish. Look at the barbels on that. I'll show you now. Look at that. Beautiful. So, without further ado, let's have a look at our little River Marne prize. Probably a 4.5 pound barbel. Lovely. Get her back. Let's try to catch another one. Good morning. As you can see, it's been a semi-successful night. I've managed to winkle another bite, a small double figure fish, which is very rare for this place. I've now had 3 actual takes. I've lost a real big one yesterday. I caught a fish the first night which was 16 pounds, and I've had this double, which is a little bit rare as the average is quite a lot bigger than this on Sky Lake. But it's very welcome nonetheless, as it proves the tactics are working. So what I'm going to do now is actually show you the spots I've been fishing, how to find them, and hopefully you can apply it to your own fishing. Using one of these is absolutely vital on any new lake. As you've already seen, Adam has worked wonders with a marker float, and I've tried to do a similar thing in a different type of swim. It's not as intimate, it's a bit more barren out there. However, there's enough features out there to winkle a bite. So what I'm going to do is show you exactly where I've been fishing and why. Right, I'm quite excited about this spot I'm going to show you, because the very first night we got here, me and Adam sort of set up next to each other. Didn't know where to start, to be honest, but this looked as good a bet as any. And we saw fish showing on a certain line. They weren't very they weren't very far out. They were showing on a short line. So I thought there's got to be something there. They can't all be showing on there, on that particular line for without reason. So I had a little plum about the next day. I was using Dan as my far bank marker, as a daytime one obviously, and as he's scared of the dark, you kind of know that at night there's going to be a torch on as well, so I knew I could bank on him to give me something to aim for at night. But what I'm going to do is just draw that marker back and show you exactly what I'm fishing over. I've got a nice big lead on there, rounded nose lead, which fills the contours of the bottom lovely, and that's just, and the float's obviously on the end of that. What I'm doing, just pulling it back very gently and looking for something distinctly different. Right, there we go. The lead has pulled into something quite tight there, really strong, hard to move it at all. And going by experience, I'm pretty certain that that's sort of heavy weed growth, which is really good for this time of year. So I'm just going to pop the float up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and a bit. And that is exactly where the fish were showing on the first night we were here. That proved that they were just behind a band of weed. There was a big block of weed there stretching right in front of 2 or 3 swims along this bank, and the fish were periodically just lumping out. So what I've done is basically fished me right hand the middle rod just past the marker float, no more than half a rod length. So once the lead crashes down, it's sitting, nestling lovely and tight to the back of that weed bed by sprinkling sort of 6 spods there, trickling it in during the day, keeping the lines completely out. It's encouraged the fish to go around, milling around that weed bed and feeding, and then by the time I get my lines out at night, I've got a very good chance of a take. And I lost the big one last night, caught the little one this morning, and all to play for with 1 night to go. That spod's landed lovely. I know Dan's been making a lot of tactical changes over the last few days to try and entice a bite. I believe he's had a bit of activity this morning, so I think we'll go around there, catch up with him and see what he's been up to.
And as Ali quite rightly said, I did have an occurrence. 6 o'clock this morning, still pitch black. Middle rod's pulled up a couple of times, given me a bleep which has woke me up. And then it started to go, really ripped off, but only lasted about 10-15 seconds. At night it seems like ages, and I was struggling to get my glasses on and my boots on and everything else. It had stopped going by the time I got to the rod, but it was still tight. Picked it up, it had actually kited round to the left and pulled one back lead over the top of the other one, so I was in all kinds of mess. Picked the rod up, nothing there. And I had a similar occurrence earlier on in the week. Not a lot of line was taken and there was nothing there on the end, and I'm pretty sure that that must have been a carp as well now. And that seems to be a trend that's gone right the way through the week. Although there's been a dozen takes on here this week, which is pretty good for the time of year, there have been quite a few missed chances. Ali's had a big fish fall off as well, and I think that's all conducive to the fish not really feeding that hard. I've been baiting one spot consistently where Adam's been moving around and fishing loads of different swims. You know, I've had the same number of takes as him, but he's got both his fish in, so obviously he's had a result where I've had a poor week at the moment. But the one thing that I did change last night that I think got me that extra bite was moving over to a little bit of plastic corn. Just popped up like that, little tiny split shot under a size 8 wide gape and a bit of hybrid. I'm still fishing it with a stick, and those are my 2 mixes. I've got a nut mix, which is ground up Proactive boilie with ground up nuts and a little bit of nut ground bait as well, and then that's my bloodworm mix, which has got the tuna in it, which you've seen me make 1,000 times before on this show. Those were the mixes I was using. Little tiny stick over the top, putting it out on top of the bait. I've not baited up for 2 days now. Now, we were talking about this, Adam and myself, and he said everybody that comes on here, especially if they're going to use the boat to bait up, puts loads of bait in. So the fish must be used to seeing loads of bait, and that's probably what I've done wrong. I've put a lot of bait in, and it's taken a long time for the fish to get on it. And because my only bite was on a little bit of stuff popped up over the top, it suggests the fish are not really eating the bait. They're just picking at it, because my tiger nut baits fished right in the middle of all of it, didn't go. So that's a little tip you can put into your own fishing at this time of the year. Don't just fill it in, try different things. A guy's moved into another swim not far from me, put out 3 hook baits and had 2 bites last night. So heavy baiting is not necessarily always the way, but we've got 1 night to go. I'm going to put the little bit of plastic corn out on all rods, 2 yellow ones, and then on the other rod I'm going to put out a bit of glow in the dark corn and see how we fare. We're going to talk rig camouflage now. Now, Sky Lake is much clearer than the normal French water, and at the moment, without Polaroids on, I can probably see the bottom in 5 or 6 foot. With Polaroids on, when we first got here, you could see the bottom in over 10 foot. And you can imagine those big old wary carp, remember they're getting fished for almost every week of the year, swimming around this lake, coming into contact with lines cutting straight through the water and just avoiding the area like the plague. Now, I've got a flying back lead on to try and pin the line to the lake bed, and it's further away from the lead than I would have it normally, which makes it fly back further. So what I've done is put a little bit of putty on the line, rolled it on the line and then dipped it into the margins to harden it, and then the flying back lead will sit on top of that before I cast out. So it's probably twice the distance it would normally be from the lead. So when I cast, it comes back almost twice the distance. So that's probably coming back 20 yards on an 80-yard cast. And then I'm also putting a back lead on as well, because it's pretty flat all the way out to where I'm fishing. Where the back lead's landing in the edge, it's maybe 10 foot, really deep, just off the margins, and it's going down to about 14 out there, but just steadily. And I'm trying to keep the line as flat to the bottom, because we've seen from the underwater filming, if everything's close to the bottom, it's much, much harder for the fish to see. Now I'm also resting the swim, which means I'm not fishing at the times of the day when you're not going to get a bite. So I've got all my rods in at the moment, and it's something that a lot of people are guilty of when they come to these waters in France. They've paid their money, they want to fish 24 hours a day, and you can actually ruin a swim if you've got your lines out all the time when you're not going to get a bite. The fish come along, they see your line, and then they avoid that area that night. So if there's no bites happening at all during the day, wind your rods in, go and have a social, still bait up so the fish see the bait in front of the swim, but there's no line there to scare them away. And then just before it gets dark, normally after dinner, cast out, all my rods are clipped up, I hit the clip on all 3 rods, and I'm fishing again with minimal disturbance, and then hopefully you get a chance at night. And on these pressured waters, that can really make a difference. Now, talking about the rig, I've camouflaged it as much as I possibly can. I've got a safe zone leader, that's a green one, plus the lead clip, rubber and everything all camouflaged as well. And the brown coloured lead seems to be better camouflaged on this lake bed. I've got a green hybrid hook link with 2 little bits of Frank's plastic popped up corn. That's the special pineapple stuff that he's done specially for me. And a little tiny split shot just to hold that up off the bottom. And what I'm going to do now is the proper acid test. Drop your rig in the edge and see if it blends in with the lake bed. Because if you can see it in this depth of water, remember the fish are only inches from it when they take it, if you can see it, they can definitely see it. And that's blended in really well, and that gives me far more confidence. If I drop the rig into the edge, remember you've got to drop it onto something similar to what it's landing on out in the lake. It's no good dropping it on a little tiny clean gravel spot there and then chucking it into silt, because it's going to stand out like a sore thumb on that silt if it blends in on the gravel, and vice versa. If you find a little silty pocket in the edge, you drop your rig in it, it all disappears covered in silt, and then you chuck it out onto a gravel spot and it stands out like a sore thumb, that's going to work against you as well. So when you're fishing these holidays, when the fish are really pressured, pay them absolute respect.
I reckon you're quite a Pamela Anderson type of guy, aren't you? Number 22.
Shut up.
No?
No.
Too
no.
plastico.
Giselle would be nice. Or maybe, oh, Keely.
Kieran Knightley. Every time Kieran. And why she's number 10 and not number 1, I don't know.
Mm. Anyway, angling.
Yes.
Hello. Sorry about that. We're in Adam's 11 millionth choice to swim, is it or not?
It's number 5, Dan, you're exaggerating again.
Number 5. Why? First of all, last night, what occurred? Because
Well,
you were going to have
last
a walk
night
round, weren't
I
you?
had a walk round for about 2 hours, so I didn't really manage very long. Overcome by extreme tiredness, so I put them out where I saw some fish, went to bed, and had to take about 1:15 on a zig rig set about 4 foot off the bottom in about 16, 18 foot of water. Bit of night glow plastic and a mainline tooty.
Yeah,
and
bit of plastic corn, just for people that don't know.
Yeah, bit of glow in the dark plastic corn. And,
Yep.
as soon as, like a few of the strange takes that people have been having, I got to the rod and it was still going when I picked the rod up, but there was nothing there.
Weird.
So yeah, I'm not sure what occurred there. And after that, nothing happened. Went back to the margin rod in the corner, and crays came in. They just seem to live in that corner, which is quite. They haven't been bothering anybody,
No,
have they?
haven't bothered me at all, mate. But then again, nothing else has either, to be fair.
So then this morning I had a little look and spoke to some of the guys at breakfast. I'd seen a couple of fish here, and the other sightings from other people concurred. So I walked round here, and within 10 minutes of being here, a good fish came out only about 15 yards out.
Nice.
So ran back, loaded the van, drove round, and set up. And I've got 3 rods out there still.
Here we are now.
Yeah, there's still a few fish sort of showing every now and again. It's getting quite hot now. It's the best day we've had for heat, isn't it? By a mile. And just had a liner on the inside rod. And yeah, I think something might happen.
There's every chance. So what I wanted to pick your brains on was, why did you fish a zig rig 4 foot off the bottom at night? Because that's a pretty radical thing. I know other people have done it from time to time, but there's obviously a very good reason for it.
I think everybody's been seeing fish but not getting bites, and because we've had mega high pressure and clear, really cold nights, it's been down to 0 some nights, hasn't it? In past experience, certainly on the lakes around the Oxford area, the fish do spend a lot of time mid-water or higher when it's high pressure and cold nights. That bit of carp just over my right-hand rod, that was. Fantastic, yeah, about 30 yards out. Dead in line with the corner, that's where I'm cast.
Get in. Excellent. So have you got zigwigs on now then?
No, I haven't. No, I just fish them
Why?
at night. Well, partly because, as you might have noticed, when you walk around, this corner is extremely murked up where the fish have been feeding, and visibility is down to like 2 foot. So I didn't want to fish a zig. I think they work because of the visual aspect, which is why I put the glow in the dark corn on it for the night. I also used it during the night because it's something that, I mean, this lake does see a lot of different things, but it probably doesn't see that at night. And sometimes just something a little bit zany can work. I mean, it might have nearly worked last night. It might
Well, you
have
had a
been
bite,
fish
didn't
on
you?
the map, but yeah.
So you've got bottom baits on at the moment because it's murked up. The fish have obviously been
They're feeding on the bottom. There's quite a few in the area, so I've just put tiny little funnel web sticks on each rod,
Right.
and a little bit of plastic for the hook bait. And like I say, I'm going to go out very far, 30 yards or so, and
Right. And how many chucks around with the marker float to find your spots?
didn't at all, Dan. No, it was. There's not much weed, is there?
No.
So it was a matter of cast where I'd seen each one of those 3 rods is where I've seen a fish show.
Right.
And I've just felt it down and it's landed firm. The hook point's inside the stick anyway. There's no, as I said, there's no major weed issue, so I didn't think it would be to my advantage to start plumbing and such like. So
Cool. Okay.
we'll see what
All
happens.
right.
But,
Well, there's a few hours to go. You never know. You could bag another one. I mean, I've been really impressed, mate, with how you fished this week. I've sort of been nailed to one swim, really. And, you know, I've had a couple of chances which haven't turned into fish on the mat. I mean, I haven't even connected with anything. But it certainly inspired me on these particular kinds of places to adopt a more mobile approach. And try a bit harder, and you know, not. I thought that I'd go into the swim at the start of the session, I'd keep baiting, and they would arrive, because it's happened everywhere else I've ever been. I've seen people chasing around, they've not done any good, and eventually my area's come good, and I've had a few. And this particular time that hasn't happened. So
although it still could, to be fair.
it still could do, yeah, but it hasn't, you know. And I think it's great fishing with new people, because, you know, we went to Walthamstow. It was an established venue for me. You didn't know anything about it. I had a few, you didn't, and then it's swapped round the other way this time. And it certainly it's given me food for thought, and hopefully the viewers as well. So thank you very much.
Nice one. Cheers.
Well, would you believe it? The camera crew's gone home and it's all started to happen. I've had a couple in the last 2 hours. Hamidi's had one round the other side that we're going to show you in a minute. So let's get this fella back and then we'll show you the other fish. Thank you, my love.
Look at that. 39 pounds, 10 ounces of absolutely stunning mirror carp. I don't think you could wish to ever catch anything as beautiful as this. One of the most stunning carp I've ever caught in my life. Taken on a chod rig setup, cast a rolling fish early this morning after I'd heard a take which turned out to be Dan's. But I'm so happy. What a beautiful fish, and what a lovely end to an excellent trip. Let's get you back, darling.
Well, what a beautiful end to a gruelling week. 41 pounds and 2 ounces, and that with an upper 20 as well is more than enough for me out of Sky Lake. I'd like to say thanks very much to Tim for his very kind hospitality over the week. The food's been fantastic, and until now it was the highlight of the week for me. But what a way to finish. Yes, top result. We'll certainly be back for some more Sky Whackers at some point in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the bank sometime.
For a chance to see more of the underwater footage shown in this series, check out the state-of-the-art underwater carp fishing series, available from all good tackle shops.
This episode of Thinking Tackle is in association with Daiwa Infinity Rods.